Howdy again, Mr. Pete here, and I'm going to do a short video today, a garage tour. That is a tour of Studio G2. That's my old garage. It's already 80 degrees at 8:30 in the morning. I'm going up in the attic, and it's going to be it's already hot. I can't, but I wanted to show you something on the outside here first. I've been living in this house for 53 years, but when I first moved, the garage had wooden siding, and right here where this window is, there was a door, a man door with glass panes on it. It was a salvage door, appeared at that time. But anyway, that is where Tommy, neighbor Tommy, owner of Smoky, and the spite mower himself, long gone, he's been dead, I think, 3 or 4 years. I still miss him. But anyway, he broke a window out during the fire, which I'm going to get into in a minute. And he cut himself a little bit, not real bad, but he pulled the garden hose from over there at the house. You might even see it. And this is at 2 in the morning. And we had the fire pretty much out by the time the Grand Ridge Fire Department got here, because I was not in the city at the time. So it took a while for them to get here. And it wasn't a fierce fire because the garage was totally shut at that time, and there was a lack of air, of oxygen, which, but it still did a lot of damage. So let's go inside, but you'll soon see where the door was from the inside. Now, the reason I like to make these videos is I get an awful lot of views from this type of video, and this will only take me 15 minutes to make the video and perhaps another hour to edit it. So it's really easy to do, and people like it far more than my shop video. So that's why I'm doing it, and I've never done this before, although I was in here the other day to tell you the story about the welder at high school, one of my anecdotes. But anyway, what do we have here? Well, I've got these shelves here, and I really thinned the herd, but I had an enormous number of books here on the Second World War and cars and all the stuff I love. Here's machine shop books, and all of these magazines are old car magazines from the 40s, 50s, and 60s. I always take a couple magazines out of here when I go have my oil change or go to the dentist or something like that, because they never have any magazines worth reading, and then I leave them there for the next patient. So let's start over here, and you've seen it all, but I'm cleaning out the upstairs. We're going to go up in the attic. Boy, do I have a glare here. But anyway, I've had all of these pulleys for how many years, and they're going into the scrap iron. But this is my Foundry, or what's left of it, you know, my Johnson furnace. Actually, it's a heat treating furnace. I have steel and aluminum everywhere, and that's all going to be sold. So watch my peat bays for large batches of excellent stock, thousands of dollars worth. So you've seen this in my videos. That's my molding bench, exactly like my buddy down in Mississippi has on Windy Hill Foundry. So there's my tools and my muller. I know a lot of guys would like to get their hands on this. My Ford 8N, nobody cares two hoots about this. You know, these old tractors leak so much oil from one end to the other. I mean, you can see oil starts dripping at the front of the engine, back of the engine, transmission, gear case, you name it. You need a piece of cardboard 12 foot long. All right, that's why you see extra cardboard here. And what else do I have to show you? That's all yard stuff you don't care two hoots about. There's always stuff up in the joists here. A lot of wood. I had motors and all kinds of stuff up there. Some of it I got rid of already, even a couple years ago. So I am downsizing. Remember, if you like my Foundry stuff, you're going to have parting sand, and this is Petrobond powder. That's going to be for sale here very soon. If you're interested in all this Foundry sand, this is Petrobond sand. Nice selection of aluminum and steel. And there's a nice rope I can use to hang myself here when the end comes. And again, here's the meat hook. Sometimes my wife takes a nap out here and she takes her choice. Sometimes she likes the longer one. Occasionally she likes to be closer to the ceiling. And this is one of her favorites for taking a nap. But we have several more in the house because she can sleep on a meat hook, you know. I can't sleep on a beauty rest. You might recall that just a week ago there was a beautiful workbench here with a maple top. It now resides in St. Louis, near St. Louis, with my buddy Paul Hunt, who also bought that big, beautiful Rikon bandsaw. A lot of stuff here is going to go. You know, I've been collecting copper and brass since I was a boy. My dad showed me how to separate it, so I sold most of it recently, but I got brass and copper, and there's those blowtorches. They're going to be scrapped out. Some fairly good stuff here, but most of that I'm just going to throw out. Love my electric chainsaws. They never fail to start. And that's why all these tools are right here, because there was a workbench. So I got to get rid of those tools. I got a million of them. Used to be a lot more tools around here. And even up here, look, there's a couple of beautiful heavy-duty C-clamps. They've been there for 30 years and haven't used them once. Okay, let's talk a little bit about the fire. This is where the door originally was. Now, why they put it near the back of the garage, I don't know, but that's why there's a sidewalk out there. So I closed that up and put a window when I remodeled the garage. But back to the fire, years ago I had a little riding mower. It was a Ellis Chalmers and it had a rear engine. Real piece of junk. And the engine failed, so I put a new engine on that I bought at Farm and Fleet. It was a Tecumseh. And it was a pretty good running engine, but when I was done mowing, I would come into the garage and I would back it in right here. So the engine was basically against the wall. Sometimes when I shut the engine off, it backfired and popped. I don't remember if it did that fateful day, but anyway, whenever I mowed, you know, probably 6 in the evening or 7, I don't remember, but that apparently was the cause of the fire. There was no sheathing here years ago. It was just 2x4s, and I think there was some insulation there as well. But apparently a spark got into that, and it must have glowed for hours because the actual fire wasn't until like 2 in the morning. So it started at that point. So all of that has been replaced, and it did go through the roof, to the, which I'll show you here presently, to the point where it didn't break through the roof. If that had happened, the fire would have really accelerated, but the shingle, it was brand new roof. Those fiberglass shingles were just sagging because the rafter was pretty much gone by that time. All right, let's go upstairs. Before we go upstairs, originally in this garage, there was a place to store things, but there was just a hatch up here. And you had to use a step ladder to get up there, and there were just tons of stuff there. But as I was remodeling, I thought, well, I'm gonna put stairs in it, and I did, so that I can store my treasures. There used to be a window there too. That's why that's, okay, so up we go, and I've got a light on up there. And you can't go up here in the afternoon, it's so incredibly hot. Already before we even get all the way up, there's a selection of ingots of aluminum. I keep fluorescent bulbs. There's a bunch of aluminum under here. You can't really see it. You can see what a hoarder I am, and a lot of this has already been moved, but you know, I got a big block of steel. There's all kinds of aluminum. That's all for sale. Pile of steel. Wood. I put these louvers in too on both ends. Can you see now that this is all charred? And the moron that built this garage in '49, well, I don't know if they had building codes or not. Plus, we're not in the city at that time. So he used 2x4s for rafters. So the whole roof sags. You know, that's all wrong, but you can see where I replaced the roof and the sheathing and all of that. Now, all the rest is charred, some of it pretty badly charred, really. That'll probably come back to bite me when I sell this old shack. Well, I got some traps there and I don't know what all. Needs to go. And I'm still trying to sell that beautiful little hot air engine. No interest, no takers. All right, we'll step up here. Plenty of rope. Whole box of 1/4 inch rope there, brand new. 1,000 feet of it probably. There's some of my Foundry stuff. Why does a fella need 3 hedge trimmers when he hates to trim hedges? Here's more Foundry stuff, but you know, right here, I'm gonna sell this. These are big blocks of cast iron. Cast iron rod, slab of cast iron. Look at that chunk. Oh, that's plastic. I'm gonna throw that away right now. Yeah, that's what a fella needs to do. Big selection of plastic and Foundry, some of my Foundry patterns, I need to throw those out. Sandbags, just in case we ever have a flood. Isn't that crazy? Bags, I don't know what's in that white thing, but it needs to go. I've got quite a few garage door openers still in the box, but no rails for them. When my son works for Chamberlain, and when they moved about 10 years ago, he said they must have thrown out thousands of these in a dumpster. And he brought a few home, and he said every day those dumpsters were being pillaged by neighbors or whatever. But they don't care, you know, they just crush all that stuff. There were shelves here and just all kinds of stuff. There's the last of my Foundry flasks. The bigger ones, I can't lift those empty, let alone full. All the concrete finishing tools are gonna go out. I hate doing that. There's some of my plumbing supplies. And you know, I've had this selection of pipe nipples for 20 years, never used one of them. That's going out right now. That's where the pulley sat a day or two ago. And there's my little bench furnace Johnson. Yeah, aluminum, you know, assorted junk. I close those in the winter, obviously. Motors, come on. I'll scrap all that. And some books that I use for reference. More Foundry sand. By the way, right below me, you might have seen a post, a steel post supporting the floor here. That's because I had so much Foundry sand here. Copper cables of all kinds, heavy duty. I bought every last belt out of a hardware store about 25 years ago. I had 3 times that much. I already threw out the wider ones, the so-called B size. So those are all 3/8, 3Ls and 4Ls. And I left a trail of silica sand here. I didn't know I was doing that when I dragged that barrel over, the green barrel, bucket, I should say. These boards they're all dark in color, but they're not too bad right there. But as you come down here, you can see the char. You know, I can just pick the charcoal off. I just was too late. Look at this ridgepole here. Yeah, that was quite a fire. I would have been far better off with the garage just burning to the ground. My car was in it at the time. It smelled like smoke for a long time. So in all of these containers are my old Popular Science and Popular Mechanics magazines, which I love. That's all, oh shoot, that's all packing material for when I sell stuff. Yeah, there's my Popular Sciences and all. I just love those old magazines. You've seen me use them in the videos for reference. Well, that's about the sum total. I hope you found a little of this interesting. I mean, it's not great, but I would like to get most of this cleared out in the next year or so. More aluminum ingots, more Popular Mechanics. You know, they don't print anything like this anymore. So those are a great reference. All right, it's getting hot up here. I can hardly stand it. I'm going back down. And I put that railing on as I started to age, and then I even added this on so I have some support as I come down to where the very first rail is. I never go down the steps anymore without using at least one railing. All right, was that boring enough? Oh, what is this? I should put that, I might have put that in my, what is it? What is that? You know. All right, up here we got more steel and aluminum. Those are pretty long pieces. I gotta sell all that. It's been there for years, never used it once. Over the years, I've had this, I guess that's a single tree, I guess. It's not a, yeah. An auger, a couple wrenches, ice tong. Of all the years that these have been up here, 30 years, no one ever said, oh, I really like those old tools. So they're gonna come down and probably be scrapped. Nobody cares about that kind of stuff. They just wanna play with their phones, don't they? Sometimes it sounds like I'm bitter. I'm not really bitter. I wanna be better. Oh, one more thing. You know, I had so many shovels and long handle tools up there because sometimes you can buy these at garage sales. Moving sales is where you find this stuff, but I've given most of it away, but you can't have enough shovels. So there's another bundle of long pieces of steel. There's some channel iron up there. Let me put this door down so I can show you what was above it. So, above the door is, well, there's a little siding there for repair, but there's a bunch of aluminum angles and rods, and all of this material here that is kind of purple in color is screw machine stock of odd sizes. I think I'll sell that as a group that's already been there. You know where I bought that? If you've ever watched my video where I visit the Brown and Sharp screw machine factory, and some aluminum there as well. Let me tell a little story to you. About 7 years ago, maybe 5, we went on a bus trip, a senior citizen trip to Boston and out east, New York City and all of that. Great trip. But while I was in Rhode Island, I think it was, I get a phone call on the very phone that I'm using now. And it's my neighbor across the street, a woman. And she said, she had 2 cats, so I don't know if this was her cat or not, but she said, she didn't know we were gone, I don't even think. She said, I hear a terrible noise out of your garage, and it sounds like a baby crying or a cat or something. I said, oh my gosh, I bet there's a cat that is trapped in the garage. Well, what has happened a lot over the years is that a cat gets in the garage, and when I would open the garage door or pull the car in or whatever, of course, they would run up the steps and they would be upstairs, and I had no idea that they were in the garage, and then, you know, close the door and go to bed or whatever it is. So that happened many times over the years, because when I would come in here, you know, it would smell like a cat. You know, that horrible, horrible smell of cat urine? Smells like the lion house at Brookfield Zoo. But apparently that cat was in here for, well, it had to be 3 or 4 days, so it must have been pretty hungry and thirsty and desperate. So over the years, I noticed several things. I'm probably too dark down there. But anyway, there's a... Can you see where the wafer board is all clawed or chewed up? So the cat tried to make a hole to get out, but of course there's siding and sheathing, he never would have got out. And it was a mess there, real mess. One other thing, you might find this interesting. This door was pretty brand new at the time, And this is the other area where the cat tried to get out because there was styrofoam all over the place. So it got through the foam, but it couldn't get through the aluminum. So it was quite a mess out here. But anyway, I gave the neighbor lady the code to get in the garage. So she came over here and opened the door, and she didn't see the cat. I suppose it probably ran upstairs again. And then when she went back home, it got out of here. And I never did know whose cat it was. Was that a boring story? Well, I've given a lot of shop tours and garage tours and studio tours over the years, and I think I will make one more down in Studio B, because a lot of things have changed since I made the last video. I had new equipment and then got rid of equipment, so it's constantly changing. It's work in progress, but now I'm trying to dismantle the whole darn thing. Well, if you liked the video, leave a comment. If you hated it, give me a thumbs down. I'm up for it. I know it wasn't a very good one, and it took me, what, 15 minutes or so to make this. Now I'm going to go and edit it, and I hope at least a few people enjoy it. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you soon. Remember, there are well over 1,600 YouTube videos, shop videos, as well as my 250 or more video chapters in my video courses. Mr. Pete, over and out. Well, it's 90 minutes later, and it's really getting hot, and I just remembered I didn't really completely tell you the end results of that fire story, but I just took a 1 hour bike ride, so I'm getting pretty warm. But anyway, I just realized that I took a bottle of water along and didn't take a single, never occurred to me to take a drink because I don't get thirsty. And that's why it's so dangerous to get dehydrated like I did in one of my stories. Okay, let me back up now. So at 2 in the morning, I'm just sleeping soundly, and there was just a hammering on the door. I mean, just not a little knock, but I mean, just like somebody's gonna knock, scared the heck out of me. So I grabbed the gun, of course, ran to the door, ready to, you know what. But it was Tommy, but it was not Tommy despite more. It was his neighbor, who was also Tommy Kimes. He's dead now. Well, so was the other. But, oh, we got a pair of dead Tommies, don't we? So I loved Tommy. I think I wept when he died. But anyway, it was Tommy Kimes that woke me up because he smelled the smoke, that horrible smoldering smell. And the wind was, you know, westerly wind, so he caught it across the street on the corner there. So then, of course, right away, I called the fire department, but they're in Grand Ridge. It's a voluntary department, good, an excellent department, because we weren't in the city yet. So it took probably 15 minutes to get here. But in the meantime, Tommy, the spike mower came over. I don't know if he heard the commotion or smell or what. And he's in shorts and he's barefooted. And so he grabbed that. He's the kind of guy that takes control. If I was cutting a tree down with a chainsaw, he loved that. He could hear that. He would instantly come over and just grab the chainsaw out of my hand and elbow me out of the way, which of course delighted me. I had to feign disappointment, but you know, he would cut that tree down in a matter of minutes, and then he would want to know where my axe was and a shovel. He'd dig the stump out. Boy, could that guy work. But that's off the subject. But anyway, Tommy, the spike mower, grabbed the hose, you know, and came in, knocked this window out of the door, and we were just squirting water inside. I think then we kicked the door down. It was a pretty flimsy door, and got in there, but you know, the smoke was just terrible. And then eventually the fire department came, and they just brought their hose out. I think they had a tanker truck because there was no hydrants around here yet. And it didn't take them much at all, you know, to finish it off. But then I remember going back to bed, you know, and I never did sleep that night because I was sitting at the window expecting it to flare up again, but it never did. And then they said the fire marshal would come out and investigate, but nobody ever came. Didn't matter, but I'm sure it was started by the lawnmower. And thank you, Tommy. if you can hear me up there, you know, for all you've done for me, including putting that fire out. So I had State Farm Insurance, and they came out, and yeah. And then I had I had a contractor come out and give me an estimate, maybe 2 contractors. And then I think they said the damage was like $4,000, but that's 40 years ago. It'd be like $20,000 now. Of course, I pocketed the money and did the work myself, but it was probably $1,000 worth of wood at the time. And I had to reshingle the roof too, which I hate doing. So, all right, that's enough on the Peterson garage fire.